All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ecoinvent 3.11 webinar, specifically looking at its integration to openLCA. My name is Julia. I work here at Green Delta, the developers of openLCA, basically as an LCA consultant and also a bit part of communications team. And I'm here, the host of this webinar, and our colleague Conrad will be the one explaining you and going through all of the content. So here I leave the floor to Conrad, and let us begin.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Conrad, and here at Green Delta, I'm leading the Ecoinvent implementation into openLCA, but also I do research tasks for lifecycle assessment in Horizon Europe projects. And today, I first start sharing my screen. We want to give you not only an overview of Ecoinvent 3.11. This we will do very briefly, the sector updates, because Ecoinvent has already done a nice webinar on all the process and sectorial updates, and I will later show you where you can find it. I hope everyone can see the screen. So then we can start with some housekeeping rules. Of course, a welcome me and Julia did already, and please keep your phone, your mic and your video off. And at the end, we will do a Q&A. So please write questions into your chat, and later we will answer them. Okay, and we will, of course, after the meeting, we will upload this to YouTube so that people who could not join now live, that they can always see the recording. Okay, and the content is quite easy. So we start with a brief introduction to Ecoinvent 3.11. But as I said already, we will not go into the specific sectorial details that Ecoinvent made, because they have already done a webinar to this. We will then jump into a live demonstration in openLCA so that you really see live how easy it is to integrate the database into openLCA. And yeah. And then we do the Q&A. Okay, so let's start with some content about the database. So the 3.11 update has now roughly 25,000 unit processes. And these are the typical sectors that Ecoinvent includes. And specifically in the version 3.11, we have here roughly 2,000 new data sets and roughly 5,000 updated data sets. You can also see here, this is from the Ecoinvent webinar, which happened a few weeks ago, I think. Yes. The number of data sets per sector. So you see that Ecoinvent is one of the few databases which really covers all sectors, and specifically in the energy and in the waste treatment sector, they have a large coverage, and also agricultural. Yeah, so here is sectorial updates. I will show you later the link to the webinar from Ecoinvent and also to their report of changes. We also included now the Ecoinvent PDFs directly into the database that you can easily open and find them. So we have here the sectorial updates. Nearly every sector got a few updates. And what Ecoinvent did the carbon balancing a bit. So there were some double counting in the previous versions. So they corrected the biogenic carbon balancing. This is especially important for people doing either PCF according to 14067 studies or EPDs according to EN 15804, where you have to take care of the carbon balancing. And the LCAA methods were not so much updates because they only included the IPCC method with biogenic carbon accounting. So that was the only method update. But in terms of characterization factors, they put a lot more now. You have roughly double the factors than you had in 3.10. This does not mean that all these factors are used in a data set. No, but maybe in a very fancy LCA study where you model direct emissions, you can use these new factors for your own foreground processes. Here as an example, EF 3.1 environmental footprint method has now like 27,000 factors compared to 10,000 before. And this is, I think they harmonized it with the GLAD mapping. So the GLAD project, which did a mapping between the databases, so that Ecoinvent could now include also more of these factors. Here, another picture. It's a bit blurry, I'm sorry. That was directly from the website from Ecoinvent, where you can see that 3.11, the electricity grids are now updated to 2022 for China, Brazil, and the US. All the remaining markets are 2021, and the residual mixes are 2023. So it's usually whenever a new database comes out every year, a new Ecoinvent version, the electricity grids, due to the reporting of the institutes, is roughly 2 years behind. Okay, also, if you want to have really specific information about what was exactly in each sector updated, like which batteries they added in the battery sector or which chemicals they added in the chemical sector, just go to the support website from Ecoinvent. They have a knowledge base there where you can download the PDF, the report of changes. I will also later show you how to find it in this software, openLCA, directly. And there you also find the webinar from Ecoinvent, which was specific to the processes, okay? And now we want to more show you the implementation in openLCA, because I want to show you every year we also do some improvements in openLCA for the Ecoinvent implementation, and maybe you discover some tools and features that I show you that you were not aware of before. Also, one last slide before we switch into the software. Of course, we also do quality control, meaning that when you use the original Ecoinvent lifecycle assessment methods, which are already in the database, you will get exactly the same results that are on EcoQuery. And here I show you an example. This is the climate change impact category for all processes that are in Ecoinvent, all 25,000 plotted. And you can see like the differences, they are in the range of 10 to the power minus 8. So here one would be 100% difference. And these differences, they come from floating point arithmetic. So this is really more something technically. This is not really a difference. Yeah, just to show you that, of course, we compare also all our calculation results against the calculations from Ecoinvent. Okay, so then let's switch directly into openLCA like this. So here you have the software. I have here already the Ecoinvent databases, but what I want to show you, how quick you can import it, because this is still sometimes done wrong by some users. So here we have the Nexus. I also show you the Nexus. So when you have an Ecoinvent license, you have access in the download section to Ecoinvent. And here you can also see the release notes when we make a new Nexus version. For example, for Ecoinvent 3.11, we have already a second Nexus version released. But don't worry, if you started modeling, you don't need to change to the second version because there is no changes in the results or in the inventories. We put the second version because some customers ask us, they want to combine the system and the unit process database into one. So we had to give random UUIDs to the system process database so that in openLCA you can merge them. To be honest, I don't know what advantage it brings to merge the system and the unit process database, because it just makes everything slower because you have more elements than in one database. I would always use only the unit process database, but this just as a side comment. I will show you. So you select your Ecoinvent, for example, cut-off unit processes, you download it, and I will show you this live now. So here that you see, it was now downloaded. You just open it, new database from file. Okay, then openLCA is asking you to select the file. You open it. It takes a few seconds. Here's your database. You double click it. Takes also just a few seconds to open it. you search for process. Let's take a hostel building, a hall building in Brazil. And you can do a direct calculation, EF 3.1 method, and it's done. So in less than a minute, you can download Ecoinvent from the Nexus, you can import it, you can activate the database, you can search for a process, and you get the impact results completely calculated. Also, of course, the contribution tree, Senkai diagram, and all these things. So it's as easy as this. And again, a remark. Of course, we also offer the system process database from Ecoinvent, but when there is a unit process database, I would always take this, because with system processes, you get the same impact results for the same process. But you cannot do life cycle costing, you cannot do really regionalization, you cannot do data quality assessment. You cannot use the pedigree matrix approach for uncertainty in exchanges. You cannot do Monte Carlo. You cannot see the supply chain, the contribution tree. All these things will not be able in a system process database, because this is already pre-calculated inventories. So I personally always only work with the unit process database. And what is also good practice, you just copy the original one and you make your own project in front. Copy paste of a database also just takes a few seconds in openLCA. And here now you have a copy of that database and you start your new project inside that database. Okay. And what we want to do now, let me check. We still have a lot of time. Yeah, we go now really from top to bottom: processes, flows, methods, quality systems, and I show you what we implemented new, for example, in the 3.11 version, or maybe some people come from 3.6, 3.7. So what have we also done in the last versions for the openLCA implementation? Because there is a few things you will only find in openLCA and maybe not in other tools. So let's start with processes. When you look at an Ecoinvent process, let's take the hostel in Brazil again. First of all, you find always the link to the Echo query here on top. So when you have a perpetual license for Ecoinvent, you can also access the results in Echo query. You just need to copy paste that link and then you get the results in Echo query. Also, Ecoinvent just this week updated the Echo query, which looks very neat now. So what we also did new is, like here, a sector tag. So Ecoinvent in their tables, they also give every process a sector label, like energy, fuel, heat. And we gave that sector label as a tag to every process. So this is one new feature you can use in openLCA. You can also look at the tag results, and I will show you how. You calculate here, again, with environmental footprint 3.1 method, for example. Before checking the tags, you need to activate it. It's still an experimental feature here, enable contribution by tags in the results view. And what you see here now, when you click on tags in your calculation, for climate change, for this hostel in Brazil, you can now see the impacts from these sectors. So you have in total, you have 350,000 kilogram of CO2 equivalent. And from that, 150 come from electricity sector, 60,000 from the heat sector, and so on. And that is very a nice feature to get a first overview which sector contributes the most. Okay, so this is here the new tags tag feature. Okay, so in the processes, there's not so much more to say for our implementation, because of course we don't change any inventories. All the inventories are original from Ecoinvent. What we do is we put all the processes, this is only for the cutoff version, the cutoff system model where you have empty processes, okay? You need that, Ecoinvent is modeling that as the cutoff point where the supply chain is cutted, and that's why they have these kind of helping processes to cut off, which are empty, and we put them all here in one folder. So of course, yeah, these processes contain recyclables which come burden-free in the cutoff approach. You find them here in that separate folder. Let's switch to flows and let's look at ammonia as an example. So the first thing we do, we put here the original Ecoinvent UUID. This is only more for developers because sometimes we have to change that UUID number to make it compatible with other databases in Nexus. And here you find the original one. Also, now every flow which has a CAS number gets a tag, which is the CAS number. And this is very handy because now you can just put the CAS number here in the upper corner in the search bar. And you will, oh, sorry, I mistyped it. And you will get all flows in the database which have that CAS number. So it's all the ammonia elementary flows in different compartments, and here the ammonia product flow. So this is a very nice new feature. So you can search by CAS numbers, okay? Oh, sorry. What else? I just want to increase, light. Okay, we put all CAS numbers from Ecoinvent here in the CAS number field, all the formulas from Ecoinvent, all the synonyms, you can find them all here. Okay, these are from the official Ecoinvent tables. Also, we give every flow, every product flow a tag. So when you look, for example, we want to look only for the ammonia product flow, search in flows, ammonia here. And this one is tagged as allocatable because it's a normal product flow. All the flows that you find in the recycled content cutoff, this is again only for the cutoff system model important. You have here all the flows which are tagged as recyclable. Okay, so they come burden-free in the cutoff system model. And we tag them with, so you can also put here waste, and then you get all waste flows in the database. You can put here recyclable, and you will get all recyclable flows in the database. So we tag that. Okay, so for flows, I think this is enough. Maybe another comment. Nitric acid, because we often get this question, like some acids, they are named like without water in 50% solution state. And this is often confusing users because without water, you would think, okay, it's a pure substance. And then you read in 50% solution state. So then you think, okay, no, maybe it's in solution. We have put, Ecoinvent has for every flow a description, and we put that description, of course, inside these flows. So when you read the description, you will find that this data set represents a pure substance, 100%, and you have to add the solvent of your choice. So sometimes when you are not sure, here look in the description field of the flows. Okay. Then we can switch to the methods, which would be the next point. Of course, we implemented all the impact methods from Ecoinvent. Here you can find all the description, a short description, the version number. Let's take maybe EF31, because here you can also find the documentation, the original characterization factors. And what is also new, we linked the source here to the Ecoinvent method handbook. So when you click on an Ecoinvent method, you can directly jump to the source. And here you click, you click on that report and it will directly open because it's connected. So it's inside the database and you directly get the Ecoinvent method report for that. This is also new in the methods. And then the only method which is now new in 3.11 is this here IPCC with biogenic carbon. So this method you can use when you do a product carbon footprint or an ISO 14067 study. Okay, I think for methods this is fine. So you will always find here the report linked. And here the descriptions. Data quality systems, we also added now all the quality systems that exist, at least to my knowledge. If you want to use them, you can use them. But of course, in Ecoinvent, so by default, the Ecoinvent data quality system is linked to all the exchanges. And also you will find now here two folders, so data quality systems with uncertainties and without. So the Ecoinvent data quality system comes here with uncertainty values. And these ones can be used when you want to calculate an uncertainty from the pedigree approach. I can show you, but we don't want to make a full tutorial here. This is here, these data quality fields, where here you can calculate an uncertainty. This is done over this pedigree approach. And of course, you can only do it when you take a data quality system with uncertainties. And here the Siroth-Muller-Weidemar one from the publication, which is also linked here, which has updated Ecoinvent uncertainties here. You can also use this. But what we added just for completeness, also all the other ones which don't have any uncertainties, the famous one from the ILCD, from the F database, the one for PCRs. So when you do EPDs, this is the data quality system, which is also in the EN 15804 standard. And from our PSILCA database, or here from the US EPA, so from the LCA Commons databases, you find all data quality systems that exist. Then let's jump to the next point. The time is still good. The units. So we reduced a bit the units because there were some flow properties which were in our reference system, which were never used in Ecoinvent and which come from old databases which are not maintained anymore. So we cleaned up a bit the flow properties to keep them with a good overview. We also added some like molar mass or mole. They are not used in the Ecoinvent database, but maybe you will use them in your own foreground processes. And the currencies, there's also some important things to say. So you know the currencies already from the Ecoinvent versions in the last years. This is inserted by us. You can, of course, change the conversion factor to your own one. What we took is simply the 5-year average from 2019 to 2023, because you just don't want to take one exchange rate, which can have very big jumps from crisis. And these values come from the International Monetary Fund. But what I want to show you, what is more important, so in the whole Ecoinvent database, whenever you have prices from Ecoinvent in the quantitative reference, like for example, here the hostel, which costs apparently 300,000 euro, these prices in Ecoinvent are always referenced to Euro 2005. So I think they take a lot of prices from UN Comtrade, from some trading tables, but all the values are referenced to Euro 2005. But you maybe want to do your life cycle costing calculation with the Euro 2023. So that's why we put here an exchange rate between Euro 2005 and 2023, which is the producer price index in the Eurozone from Eurostat. And this factor is 1.55. Of course, you can adapt it to your own needs. But the advantage is that when the euro here is selected as the reference currency in the database and not Euro 2005, whenever you do a life cycle costing calculation, it will be directly calculated in Euro 2023 or Euro 2024, but not Euro 2005. I will show you an example. So whenever we want to change a process, it's good practice to copy paste it, of course. Here I copy pasted this hosted process. I want to take out this because we don't want to sell it. We just want to look upstream for the life cycle costing. We do a simple direct calculation, include the costing, okay. Takes a few seconds. And when you click on the contribution tree, the costs here, then you have the contribution tree for the costs. So apparently upstream it's 800,000, 900,000, and most comes from the window frames. This is just the raw material costs, of course, but it's in euro. So here, this is now directly calculated into euro. So it takes into account the factor here from the producer price index, and you can also change it to the inflation rate or whatever factor you want to put. If you want to calculate everything in Euro 2005, also fine. You just need to set this as your reference currency, and then all calculations will be done according to Euro 2005, which is the original values Ecoinvent puts in all quantitative references. Okay, so then we still have sources and locations left. Sources, we added some much more sources here. I will explain you. So you can here now find all the Ecoinvent documents, like the change report. It's in the database. You just click it and you have the change report of that database directly available. Same with the method manual from Ecoinvent, all included. You also find here some links to the Ecoinvent knowledge base, the guidance on IPCC method as links, and you will directly be jumped to that. Also for openLCA, of course, we put our links here, so the blog. And here I want to highlight you that we have now a nice new website that was created just a few days ago. And Evian, one of our colleagues, was leading that. And now the website for openLCA looks much more modern and nice. And you can see here, for example, the full openLCA features list and so on. So here you find some links. Also the openLCA manual. Whenever you have questions, you can directly jump to the online version of this openLCA manual, which is updated really every month and always with new contributions. Okay, so one last thing also to the locations, because we wanted to also harmonize the locations more. This is maybe more for users who do regionalized calculations or to who create their own regionalized factors. So now we have everything, as you can see here, nicely sorted in folders. And what is important, all the countries which you find in the country folder, they follow now the official names from the ISO 3166 standard. So you will maybe find this word is not so user-friendly, but that's the official name, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The code is still the same. The code was always GB for Great Britain, okay? And of course, you still find it when you write here Great Britain, you will find also the location. And you find here the tag that this follows really the code and the name follows the ISO standard. Because we have to start harmonizing these things that in every database, this will be the same. The same for subdivisions. The subdivisions, so the states of countries, we have put them now here into folders, and they also follow all the ISO names and the ISO code, okay? Because also for the subdivisions of a country, there is this 3166-2 standard. Okay, and all locations that you find, they will have a geometry, as you can see here at the bottom. So now all our locations have a geometry, and we put more locations than Ecoinvent is using. So if you maybe use it in your foreground. Okay. Also one thing, because with the database elements, we are now at the end. Also one thing, of course, we validated all the databases. Here I can show you a full validation of the database when you right-click validate and every check passes. So this is also, of course, always done by us. And in the Ecoinvent database, you will always find a default provider, which is very nice. So when you check all the data linkings, you can here click on database, check linking properties. You will see that when these two are green, that means every process in the database has a default provider set. That means that's why you can do the direct calculation. You don't need to always create a product system. You can do a direct calculation because the product system is fixed. A direct calculation takes all the providers as they are set. And since Ecoinvent has set all the default providers for every exchange, you can just directly do the direct calculation, it's good. And you will get the same result as an eco query. Of course, you can also make a product system first. This is usually better for Monte Carlo simulations, where it's much faster when you create a product system first. Okay, and I will also show you why this feature of check linking properties is quite useful. So when you do your own processes and you forget to set a provider somewhere, on purpose, I put now here no provider, okay? And you do this check linking properties. All providers in Ecoinvent are set. So this check will directly find the missing provider. And you can directly double click on that process. Here is a provider missing. And then you can set it, save it, and done. So this is how you can always check your own foreground processes that all providers are nicely set. Okay. Also here, when you have a product system, of course, you can do a Monte Carlo simulation. And I will also say a few words to that, because here we also did some changes. But for this, I switch back to our presentation, because we are at the end with showing the database elements. What I here in the presentation also want to show you, I showed you already before that here in the quality control, there is no difference to the echo query results. And when you have a perpetual license, as I said before, you have access to Echo Query. Just go there, check your process, and you will not find a difference when you use the Ecoinvent methods in openLCA. Of course, when you use the openLCA method package, there might be slight differences because you maybe do a regionalized calculation. Ecoinvent, the whole database is not regionalized, that the flows have different characterization factors depending on the location. So then you get, of course, for the regionalized methods, some differences. Okay. And I want to show you some points to the uncertainty in Ecoinvent, because originally, so the original values of uncertainties in the exchanges of Ecoinvent, they are not always reasonable. That's a problem. So what is plotted here is 500,000 exchanges, all exchanges in Ecoinvent, and the geometric standard deviation for the log normal distributions. And you can see here is a huge jump somewhere at the end, and already a geometric standard deviation above 20 or 17. I don't know. I think that's not a real value, because yeah, that's much too high. So we cut these high values off here. And also the Gaussian distributions. And there's only 1% in the database of all exchanges are Gaussian uncertainties, so normal distributions, and 99% are log normal distributions. And the normal distributions, as you can see, so here is plotted the coefficient of variation, sigma over mean. And it starts here to directly jump to values which are 1,000, which are 100,000. So all these values here are in principle unreasonable. And that's why we decided to not use these Gaussian uncertainties, because yeah, they have much too high errors, which I think they come maybe from some data provider mistakes. I'm not sure about this. I also learned that some other tools, they also cut it. So for example, in Brightway or Activity Browser, there is a cutoff also, where when they do, before importing the database, when they do a database cleaning, they have a threshold that can be set there where they cut exchanges above, uncertainties above a certain threshold. Okay. So with the live demonstration, I would say we are at the end. just to show you here the example, it's still running the Monte Carlo simulation, that this is working fine and well. So here would be not a huge standard deviation. So the mean value 3.5. So it's still the same one we got when we calculated the impacts. And the standard deviation is maybe in the range of 10% only here. Okay. So I would say with the live demonstration, we are at the end. And I will still, before we make the Q&A, announce two more things. So we will have in the future more webinars. Or the next one will be on Wednesday, the 19th of February, where the HiQ LCD database from China will be presented. And for Ecoinvent users, that could be interesting because on Thursday, 6th of March, we make a webinar to the new library feature. We will introduce the new library feature with the Ecoinvent database first, and on the 6th of March, we will explain you more details, why it is sometimes useful to use a library instead of a pure Solca file, which always can be changed completely. And the library is kind of a packed Solca, which is immutable. You cannot change it, and you can put it to different databases. But more for this on the 6th of March. And we have the openLCA conference upcoming on the 10th and 11th of April. The 2 days before, there will be also personal trainings here at our offices of Green Delta. And on the 10th and 11th, there's the conference at the UFA Fabrik in Berlin. That's a quite nice location. Yeah, because it's also historical, and I visited recently. It's I hope it will be very, very good. And yeah, I would say we are at the end. Julia, what do you think? We had 40 minutes, and now we still have 20 minutes if we have a lot of questions, right?
Exactly. Thank you a lot, Conrad. That was very insightful. I think everyone could learn something, and this video can be replayed later on if you want to see things that Conrad explained more slowly also. But now you have the chance to ask him. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask about this content, yeah, let us know in the chat, and we will be responding them now.